Hello, curious minds. Welcome to this intellectual journey. Today we delve into the life and work of a figure whom Albert Camus described as the only great spirit of our time. A woman whose intensity frightened her contemporaries and whose lucidity continues to burn today. We are talking about Simone Weil. She was not just an armchair philosopher, she was a mystic, a labor activist, and a teacher who died of hunger in solidarity with those living under wartime occupation. Her thought is dangerous because it demands absolute consistency from us. In a world obsessed with power and success, Weil speaks to us of renunciation, attention, and affliction. Her ideas on gravity and grace are not mere theories. They are tools for understanding human suffering and the possibility of redemption. She challenged both the political left and the religious authorities. She was a misfit, an outsider on all sides because her loyalty was not to a party, but to the absolute truth, however painful it might be. How can someone so physically fragile sustain such robust thought? What does it truly mean to pay attention in a world full of noise? Join me as we unravel the mystery of Simone Weil. Before we begin, a brief note. To bring this narration to life, I have used artificial intelligence tools to generate the images you see. Think of them as a canvas, a way to illustrate the ideas and the atmosphere of the story we are telling. They will not always be a literal representation, but rather a visual accompaniment to let your imagination take flight with me. I sincerely hope you enjoy it. Born in Paris in 1909 into a well-to-do agnostic Jewish family, Simone showed an abnormal sensitivity toward the pain of others from the time she was a child. It is said that at 5 years old, she refused sugar because the soldiers at the front had none. Her intelligence was fierce. She studied at the finest institutions in France, even outperforming Simone de Beauvoir in her philosophy exams. But while others sought prestige, Weil sought the reality of suffering. She did not want to study the people. She wanted to be the people. This obsession led her to a radical decision. She left her position as a philosophy teacher to work as an anonymous laborer in the Renault factory. She wanted to know in her own flesh what she called affliction, or in French, le malheur. That year in the factory broke her. It was not a tourist experiment. The infernal noise, the speed of the assembly line, and the total submission of the will scarred her soul forever. There, she understood that oppression does not only damage the body, but it also nullifies thought. She wrote that in the factory, one has no rights, only duties and fear. She discovered that modern slavery does not need visible chains. Exhaustion and the necessity to obey just to survive one more day are enough. Her health, always fragile, collapsed. But her spirit hardened. This experience is the foundation of her concept of gravity. For Weil, gravity is not just a physical law. It is the natural tendency of the human being and society toward lowliness. Later, when the Spanish Civil War broke out, she crossed the Pyrenees to join the Durruti column. She did not go to fight, as she was clumsy with weapons, but to be present. However, an accident with boiling oil forced her to withdraw early. What she saw in the war horrified her. She saw how decent men turned into beasts when they had a rifle in their hands. She understood that force, any force, turns whoever uses it and whoever suffers it into a thing, into an object. It is crucial to understand this. For Weil, force is the center of human history. In her essay on the Iliad, she describes force as that which turns a subject into an object. If they kill you, you are a corpse. If they enslave you, you are a tool. With the arrival of the Second World War and the occupation by the German regime of that time, Weil fled to Marseille and then to New York and London. But she felt guilty for being safe. She wanted to be sent on high-risk missions to help the resistance. In London, working for the Free French, she imposed a restriction on herself. She would eat no more than the rations her compatriots had in occupied France. This radical solidarity, combined with tuberculosis, led to her death at 34 years old. She died in 1943, leaving behind notebooks filled with cramped, brilliant writing. She published no books during her lifetime, but those notebooks contain one of the most potent philosophies of the 20th century. Let us now enter into her ideas. The first pillar of her thought is gravity, or la pesanteur. Weil takes this term from physics and applies it to psychology and sociology. She says that we are all subject to a force that pulls us downward toward selfishness. Gravity is the law that governs our emotions. If someone insults us, gravity forces us to return the insult. It is a compensation mechanism. We seek to restore the balance of our wounded ego by striking back. It is as if we carried a gas in our soul. If we are compressed on one side, we need to expand on another. If the boss yells at me, I yell at my subordinate. That transfer of pain is the mechanics of gravity. It is natural. It is human. Weil observes that almost everything we do is dictated by this gravity. We seek prestige, recognition, power, and pleasure to fill the void, to feel that we have weight in the world. We want to have weight. We want to be important. Even our kindness is often contaminated by gravity. If I help someone, I often expect gratitude or to feel morally superior. That is not true love. It is commerce. It is gravity disguised as virtue. But, and here comes the twist, Weil says that an exception exists. There is a force that goes against gravity. She calls it grace. Just as in physics only solar energy allows plants to grow upward against gravity, grace is the only force that does not obey natural necessity. It is the ability to stop the chain of violence. If someone hurts me and I, instead of striking back or feeling resentment, absorb that pain and do not propagate it, that is a miracle. This leads us to the concept of the void. To receive grace, we must be able to endure the void. When we suffer an injustice and do not seek revenge, a vacuum is created within us, a painful hole that the ego wants to fill. The temptation is to fill that void with illusions, dreaming of revenge, complaining, seeking easy comfort. But Weil tells us, do not fill it. Endure. Hold the void, because only into that void can truth enter. It is a terrifying idea. Enduring suffering without seeking imaginary consolation is, for her, the gateway to reality. The imagination works continuously to patch the cracks in our reality through which light might enter. This is where her notion of decreation comes in, not to be confused with destruction. Destruction is passing from being to nothingness. Decreation is passing from the created to the uncreated. It is undoing the I to make way for God or for the absolute good. Weil believes that our ego, our self, is a screen that stands between us and reality. We believe we are the center of the universe. Our perspective distorts everything. To see the world as it is, we must subtract our I from the equation. She uses a beautiful metaphor. We are like actors getting in the way on stage. We must withdraw to let the light illuminate the empty scene. To decreate is to renounce being the protagonist of our own life in order to be a pure witness. This is not masochism. It is an act of cosmic love. God withdrew to let us exist, Weil says. We must withdraw to let God exist in us. It is a reciprocal movement of retreat. But how is this practiced in daily life? We do not need to be monks. Weil gives us a practical and powerful tool, attention. For her, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. We often confuse attention with muscular concentration. We wrinkle our brows and tense up. Weil says that is false. True attention is negative. It is a waiting, an openness. It is suspending thought and leaving it available. She told her students that solving a geometry problem was a spiritual exercise. It does not matter if you find the solution or not. What matters is the effort of pure attention, because that muscle is the same one used for prayer. Mindful attention applied to one's neighbor is love. To know how to look at a suffering human being and ask them simply, "What is your torment?" and listen to the answer without judging, without interrupting, is almost a miracle. The afflicted of the world, Weil says, do not need us to give them lessons. They need to be looked at and for their existence to be recognized. The attentive gaze restores the soul that society has stolen from them. This philosophy of attention connects directly with her mysticism. For Weil, God is present in this world only in the form of absence. We find him when we love what is not us, when we love the beauty of the world and our neighbor. Let us talk now about her last great work, written shortly before she died, The Need for Roots, or L'Enracinement. It was a commission from the French resistance to think about the reconstruction of France after the war. In this text, Weil criticizes the modern notion of human rights. She says that starting with rights is a commercial error. I have a right to this. You have a right to that. It is a language of claims and conflict. She proposes starting with obligations. The obligation toward the human being is eternal and does not depend on any contract. A man alone in the universe has no rights, but he does have obligations toward himself and toward the eternal. The human soul has vital needs, just as the body has hunger. We need freedom, but also obedience. We need equality, but also hierarchy. We need security, but also risk. The modern disease, according to Weil, is uprootedness. We have destroyed communities, guilds, traditions, and the connection to the land. Capitalism and bureaucracy have turned people into floating atoms. To take root, we need to participate really and actively in the life of a community that preserves treasures from the past and omens of the future. Money destroys roots because it turns everything into interchangeable merchandise. Her critique of money is fierce. She says that when money becomes the sole motive for action, it is as if in a school the only motivation for studying were grades. The love for the object itself is lost. Weil also speaks of the need for truth. Culture and the media have a sacred obligation not to lie. She proposed courts to judge lies in the press, an idea that sounds radical today but remains relevant. Her political vision does not fit into left or right. She hated political parties because they are machines for generating collective passion and nullifying individual thought. She said that if a party seeks the truth, it ceases to be a party. To think, one must be alone. Intelligence, she said, is always individual. The collective can have strength, but never wisdom. That is why she mistrusted any mass movement, even those she supported. Let us return to her mysticism. Weil was a Christian at heart, but she refused to be baptized. She wanted to remain on the threshold of the church, alongside the heretics, the non-believers, and the excluded. She felt her vocation was to be a Christian outside the church. She loved Greece, Egypt, and India. She saw flashes of divine truth in Plato, in the Bhagavad Gita, and in the Gospels. For her, truth is one and universal, and no institution has a monopoly on it. Her concept of the beauty of the world is moving. The world is beautiful because it is necessary. The stars turn, gravity acts. That blind obedience of matter to divine laws is a model for us. We must learn to obey God as a stone obeys gravity, without resistance. But our obedience must be consented to. It must be an act of free love. That is the paradox of human freedom. Simone Weil lived her ideas to the end. In her final days at the Ashford Sanatorium, she refused to eat more than what she believed the French were eating under the occupation. The doctors could do nothing. It was a mystical hunger strike. She passed away looking out the window at the trees. She was only 34 years old. The authorities classified her departure as self-initiated due to internal distress. They understood nothing. It was not a voluntary end. It was an offering. Her legacy took time to blossom. It was thanks to friends like Camus that her writings saw the light. Today, in a world saturated with superficial information and digital narcissism, her voice resonates like a bell in the fog. Weil teaches us that thought is not a game, that ideas have consequences, and that philosophy must be lived. She reminds us that we have a soul and that the soul needs roots, truth, and attention. She warns us about the idolatry of the social, the danger of losing oneself in the collective. She invites us to fruitful solitude, where we can face our own demons and perhaps, just perhaps, find the light. Her idea of affliction, le malheur, is vital for modern empathy. Affliction is not just pain. It is social degradation. It is feeling that you do not matter. Understanding this is the first step toward true justice. Simone Weil is uncomfortable. She does not stroke your ego. She tells you that you are selfish, that you are subject to gravity, that you lie to yourself. But in doing so, she treats you with the utmost respect because she believes you are capable of the truth. Reading her is like drinking a very strong, bitter coffee. It wakes you up. It removes the stupor. It forces you to look at the world and your neighbors with different eyes, with eyes cleansed of fantasy. Attention is her great gift. In the age of constant distraction, Weil tells us, stop. Look, listen, empty yourself. Only then will you be able to receive what the world has to give you. Now then, is it possible to live like this today? Is decreation possible in the 21st century? Perhaps not in an absolute way, but we can practice micro-renunciations. We can give way, listen before speaking, renounce being right. We can try to feel the gravity within us. Observe how we react when we are criticized. Observe that energy that wants to explode. And, for a moment, do nothing. Let the energy dissipate upward. That small moment of suspension is where freedom dwells. It is the space where grace can operate. It is an exercise in spiritual resistance against the mechanics of the world. Simone Weil never wanted to be a saint. She wanted to be lucid. But in her radical search for lucidity, she touched upon a modern holiness, a secular and painful holiness that challenges us all, believers and atheists alike. She reminds us that beauty is the trap that reality sets for us so that we may fall into love. The world is hard, yes, but it is beautifully hard. And loving it exactly as it is the final task. Think about it the next time you feel offended. Remember gravity. Think about it when you study or work. Remember attention. Think about it when you see someone suffer. Remember the gaze. Her life was brief, but her light is long. Like a star that collapsed under its own gravity to emit a light that still reaches us years after its extinction. Weil is an invitation to depth. To not be content with the surface of things. To dig until we find the roots, even if we get our hands dirty with soil. It is not an easy philosophy. It is not self-help. It is the self-destruction of the ego for the construction of the true being. It is a narrow path, but it is a real path. In the end, Simone Weil leaves us with the question, how much weight are you willing to let go of so that you can fly? How much reality are you able to endure? I hope this journey through the mind of this exceptional philosopher has moved something inside you, that it has given you tools to name things you felt but did not know how to express. Philosophy serves life. If not, it serves nothing. And Simone Weil is living proof that thought can transform the flesh. If you are interested in reading her, I recommend starting with Gravity and Grace. It is a collection of her most potent thoughts, or Waiting for God for her mystical side. Do not be afraid of difficult texts. Be afraid of easy ideas, because easy ideas keep us asleep, but difficult ones wake us up. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for dedicating this time, the most valuable resource you have, to thinking together. That is already a Walian act. If this video has brought you value, consider subscribing. Here we seek rigor, beauty, and depth. Help us build a community of attention. Leave me a comment below. Which idea of Weil's has impacted you the most? Gravity, attention, or her radical life? I read you with attention. This has been an attempt to get closer to the truth. I will see you in the next analysis. Until then, keep curiosity alive. Remember, the light only enters through the wounds. Do not be afraid of breaking a little. It is the only way to let grace in. Absolute attention is prayer. Look at the world with love. That is all.